Hello everyone, this is Tengu, and welcome back to another Dark Souls 3 boss drawing. In the last episode, we defeated the consumed king, Osiros, whose obsession with creating the perfect heir drove him mad. His search led him to the study of dragons, and the hallway and the room past where we fought shows what may very well be his attempt at creating an heir of dragons. Digging a little deeper, however, we uncover a hidden wall at the back of the room, which leads to a dark but strangely familiar area called the Untended Graves. It's not long before we realize that we are on the path to what we know as the Firelink Shrine, where our journey began. As we press onward, we reach the arena where we were once judged by Udix Gundyr and proved our worth as an Unkindled. This time, we face Gundyr again, but now at the peak of his strength. Gundyr was once a champion who set out on a journey to supposedly link the fire in his time, but by the time he arrived, it was too late. The fire had faded, and an age of dark had already begun. He was greeted by a shrine without fire and a bell that would not toll. The sound of the bell is what brought us Unkindled back from our graves, and without it, they remain asleep. It is said that Gundyr, the belated champion, was then bested by an unknown warrior. He became a sheath to a coiled sword in hopes that someday, the first flame would be linked once more. Despite being sent on his duty as a champion, the halberd he received when charged with his duty is said to never crumble, seeming to suggest that Gundyr was fated to eternal service from the beginning. Unlike the slower version of Gundyr that we previously fought, this Gundyr is deceptively fast and can dish out a seemingly unending flurry of attacks. He has a mix of attacks with slower wind-up and a few very quick ones like his jab, shoulder slam, and sidekick. This mix-up can make things a little tricky while you learn to read his moves, and can even catch an experienced player off guard now and then. Because of how little breaks he has in his attacks, parrying him is often a pretty effective strategy to beat him. Practice baiting out the attack that works best for you, and it won't be long before you're able to take down Gundyr. My favorite attack of his has to be his sidekick, so I really wanted to depict it in the drawing. The first time he did it really caught me off guard. I also thought it would be a good way to really switch up this version of Gundyr, since I already did a drawing of him in the first episode of this series. I feel like the angle and pose in this drawing is so different that it really makes things stand out from the first drawing. I usually like to keep the drawing perspective kind of over the player's shoulder to keep a similar feel to the game and keep the focus on the boss, but I had a lot of fun sketching out this drawing. It's nice to switch things up every now and then, so hopefully all of you enjoyed it too. So by defeating champion Gundyr, it becomes clear that we are the unknown warrior that caused Gundyr to become the sheath and judge that we encounter at the start of the game. But how is this possible? To understand this, you need to take a look at what is stated about time in Lothric. Time is distorted in Lothric from the effects the fading of the flame is having on the land. Light is time, and as the fire fades, so do the laws that govern time. This is what the game tells us, but I think there's a little more that the game suggests about the Untended Graves. We know that Osiros was trying to create the perfect heir, and speculated in the last episode that the reason was to link the flame, perhaps even permanently. Given the location of the Untended Graves, I think it is possible that Osiros might have created this particular distortion using the magic that he learned while studying Seath. Maybe he was trying to go back far enough to prevent this particular age of dark from ever happening. We also find a ring that was left in the Untended Graves by the Queen of Lothric, suggesting that they might have been working on this together before Osiros went mad. The ancient armor that Gundyr wears is said to have been cast in iron after a former king, and his unbreakable weapon says that Gundyr was fated to eternal service from the beginning. Perhaps when Osiros realized he could only distort time so far, he sent Gundyr back under the guise of linking the flame, only for him to serve as a judge for when his perfect heir was ready. I know this is a little out there and I got off on a speculative tangent, but that's what Dark Souls lore is all about. I'd like to hear some of your theories on this. Getting back to the drawing, I decided to go with the Cathedral Knight set for our character. There aren't any armor sets available to us in the Untended Graves before the boss fight, but you can farm the Cathedral Knight set just outside of where we fought Osiris. It's a cool set that I've had some suggestions for in the past, so I thought it could work for this drawing. To really sell the kick, I'll be messing around with some blurring effects. I want the character to look like they're in motion, but the trick will be not taking it too far so I don't lose all the detail I put in the armor to begin with. I think I found a pretty decent balance between the two. With the drawing wrapping up, we will be finished with the Untended Graves and be ready to move on to the next optional area, Archdragon Peak. The Ancient Wyvern will be our next boss, so if you have any suggestions for the armor sets and weapons you would like to see used in that fight, please let me know in the comments below. While you're there, let me know what you think of my theories on Osiris and the Untended Graves. I love digging through the lore, and I'd love to hear all of your opinions on it as well. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next video.